than this interview, honestly. Oh my God. Nah, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, I could use one of those. So, this is the very first time that I've gone live on this account. If you don't know by now, I am the Caucasity counselor. I live in Southern Oregon. And, well, let's just say that I've experienced a lot of caucastic moments since living here while black. So, today I had a job interview, and so on the paperwork it said that the same woman that was my middle school principal was the one doing the interviewing. So then when I showed up, it was a panel of people. They were situated in like a U shape. That's how they arranged the desks. And then they had one desk in the middle, the hot seat where I sit, and my anxiety was on 1,000. I was scared. I was like, there's more of you. So, I honestly don't even know how I did. I answered all of the questions. I mean, it feels a little intimidating because the position was for a family and equity liaison, and the job description said that you would primarily be working with African American students and biracial kids. And I said, okay, cool. That is right up my alley. Where do you work? Oh, currently I am a caregiver. For now. I don't know if I'm gonna get this position. Cause like I said, at least one of those ladies knows who the hell it is that I am. Even though she kind of pretended like she ain't know who I was, she introduced herself. I'm Marisa Poling. Bitch, I know who you is. You said I was a danger to myself and others like 12 years ago. You don't remember that? Because I do. But whatever. So, that was interesting. So, it was a little intimidating because the position didn't necessarily require a 4-year degree or anything like that. But they still ask you what your highest level of education is. I did go to college, but it wasn't for like a bachelor's or anything like that. It was for a medical coding certification. So I'm like, most of my experience has to do with literally living in the Rogue Valley while black. Lived experience, I feel like trumps all, because if I'm going to be working primarily with black students, and there will come a time where I would come across other marginalized kids, like if I come across kids that are living below the poverty line or something like that, I feel like me having the experience of being homeless myself and getting in contact with the different community organizations that exist in Southern Oregon would, I guess, further make me qualify, because I'm already well versed in this stuff. The community partners within this area already know me by face, and the freaking this wouldn't even technically be the first school district that I've even worked with. The very first school district that I worked with was in Grants Pass, so Josephine County. Let's see. Stopping in lives to spread love and positive vibes. Y'all be good and have a beautiful day. Well, thank you, because I could use some positive vibes right about now, because I am having a lot of self-doubt right now. But yeah, that's how the interview went. But anyway, so I was basically telling them about my experience working with a completely different school district and how I was hired to look over their diversity and inclusion paperwork. And then they're like, oh, okay, well, thank you for revising this. but then they didn't listen to a damn thing that I said in the paperwork. And this, of course, is the first school district that I work with in Grants Pass. They recently rehired these this transphobic teacher and assistant principal. They started this transphobic movement called the I Resolve movement, and the kids there did a walkout and protested and said, really, the school district really hired y'all back after y'all did all that bullshit? We're not standing for this. So the kids are all right. But yeah, I feel like what they did was primarily performative. You can't just, as a school district, hire someone to look over your diversity and inclusion paperwork and then not listen to what that expert says to do regarding your paperwork. But I digress. So telling them about that experience, telling them about the time where I used to work for a racial equity group, and one of the things that I did during the height of the fires that occurred in Southern Oregon, because wildfires are a problem in the summer, a lot of families were displaced from their homes. So I told them about the time that a lot of Spanish-speaking families weren't receiving the same services as their white counterparts. So I was like, in order to alleviate this, we had to secure grant funding in order to hire interpreters to make sure that these Spanish-speaking families got the necessities that they needed. And a lot of the drop-off sites for supplies and things like that were going to white churches. And it's like, why is it that these churches don't have interpreters of their own? But I digress. That happened. So, yeah. That is how that went. I was telling them about my experience and also telling them that this kind of position is one where you have to get real comfortable with having the uncomfortable conversations regarding race. And I hope that helped my case. Like the time I went to a protest in Grants Pass, Oregon, which is famously a sundown town. But anywho's, so I told them about the time that a biracial girl had to have been high school age or something like that. She had a white grandma. She walked up to me, said that the white kids that goes to her school, they were like, they were telling her that she wasn't black enough. And I'm like, why do white students think that they set the precedent for what is and what isn't black? What the Anyway, so I told them that the very first thing that I told this little girl was, you are enough. Screw what everyone else says. You are enough. You know, don't let outside influences dictate your blackness. The fuck? We don't do that here. So, telling them about that. And I was basically telling them that the position that they're, putting the advertisement out for is something I kind of already do. And a lot of the black community within Southern Oregon, it's not a lot, but we got. But my face is well known within those circles because of the work that I did for the past 2 years. So, yeah, they get it from their parents, and they asked me if I had any questions of my own, and I said, so when I was going to school here in Southern Oregon, here's the list of the caucasity that occurred. Has that changed? So, the woman that was on the job posting listed as the person that was going to be doing the interview, Marisa Poling, she used to be the principal at the middle school that I used to go to. She's no longer the principal, but she's on the equity and diversity inclusion team. Ironic. But anyway, so the current principal of the old middle school that I went to is black. And I said, thank you, Lord. Won't he do it? So, so thankfully I wasn't the only black person in the room, is what I'm trying to get at. And, she basically said, we are under new faculty, we are, when white parents ask me if we're teaching critical race theory, she goes, tell me in your own words what you think CRT is, and I'll tell you if we teach it. And she said, and I quote, they typically go silent after that. And I said, yes! In my mind, though, because I was trying to be professional. But yeah, that was what happened. So it was kind of refreshing that I wasn't the only black person in the room for once. But at the same time, I can't be the only person of color that applied for this job, considering you would be working with black and brown students. And I am just all frazzled because I don't know if my lived experience is enough. I don't know. But man, that was something. But I figure while I got y'all on here, so this page, I primarily wanted to promote my podcast that I wanted to start because I wanted to go more in depth into my experience of living in Southern Oregon while black. Typically, when you hear the state of Oregon, the first city that comes to mind is what? Portland. And that's not where I live. Portland is the home of the craft beer and the hipsters, and that's not Southern Oregon. Southern Oregon, you have the yee yee. You have, you have some hippies, lots of cultural appropriation on their part. I know the indigenous people that live out here hate that shit. And, you're bound to see quite a few white folks with, what they think are dreadlocks, but they're not.
It's just unwashed hair.
It's just unwashed hair. Let's just... But anyway, so, yeah. Well, thank you. So, yeah, that's kind of, that's how the, interview went. But I don't know if a lived experience is enough. Know what I'm saying? But then again, is a degree really going to dictate how you should talk to black people about the black experience, or should you just be culturally black and go from there? Like, that's my whole thing, though, because explaining what I've gone through, how black children are perceived within the school district, how they could be perceived as more violent simply because they're defending themselves against their white counterparts because their white peers are getting away with saying some stupid ass racist ass shit. And when black students, defend themselves, they're seen as the aggressor. That has happened, and that has happened to me. So the pitch perfect irony of the woman that suspended me for doing just that was the one interviewing me, or one of 6 people. I was like, ah! Yeah, so, I'm scared, y'all. However, it would be amazing if I did work for the Medford School District. Thank you. I don't know if they would see it that way. I don't know if they would see lived experience trumping over a bachelor's or, a master's degree or something like that. And to be perfectly honest with you, if I had a bachelor's degree, I would have said, look, y'all gonna have to pay me more than $20 an hour if you think, because bachelor's degrees are expensive. It's expensive, student loans and shit. But yeah, having the lived experience of being homeless, having the lived experience of being in Southern Oregon while black, mental illness. They were talking about, trauma-informed responses. And I'm like, I'm your girl, because I have been helping people, whether it's through homelessness or having the race talk, things like that. All in the span of 2 years. I literally went from working for an insurance company, because that's originally what I went to school for in the first fucking place, is medical coding. Next thing I know, people keep asking me questions about race and poverty. And I'm like, well, all right. The position that I applied for is the Family and Equity Liaison. So basically just that buffer between the school districts and Black and brown families is how I interpreted the job announcement. Yeah. So that is what happened. I mean, I hope, because by the time that I was, gonna leave the interview, there was another person of color there, I'm assuming for the same exact job. And I'm like, damn, well, I am not the only person of color that applied for this position. Let's see where this goes, And I don't really know what the process is, what the waiting period is. Should I wait a week and see what happens? I don't really know. All I know is that I'm kind of over being a caregiver. Not gonna lie. Because it's like, just sitting there and waiting for one of my white clients to say something else racist. It's not worth the check some days. But then I look at my bills and I go, you know what? I'm a make it last one more week. But I keep telling myself that. Thank you. Thank you so much. Same to you too. Success and prosperity. Go out and get that. Go get it. Because I know I tried to. I did. I really and truly, I gave it, my best shot. I think one of the best things that I could have done was I listed Black Alliance Social Empowerment as one of my references. And Black Alliance Social Empowerment is a Black-led organization here in Southern Oregon. And they have asked me on multiple occasions to speak, whether that's with a televised book discussion about Dr. King. I participated in that. Or if it was speaking about my personal experience with law enforcement. They had a police panel where literally Black and brown people got on this live stream in front of police chiefs in Southern Oregon and basically talked about all of the racist things that have occurred that happened to them personally because of police. So I did that too. And it's like, the Black community already knows my goddamn face. So I feel like it would be a sigh of relief if I had this position. They're like, oh, they hired you. Oh, thank you, Lord. Like, that's what I'm trying to do, Yeah. Whew. My nerves are frazzled right now, but I'm working on it. I am. Well, hello. What if I ever did audiobooks? Well, that's cool. Thank you. I mean, I'll stick with the podcast for right now, but I'll think about it. I love your glasses. Well, thank you. I got them online from Vogue Me or Vogue Me, something like that. Yeah. I felt like it really put the outfit together. So, because I ain't gonna lie, this shirt, I have second thoughts about it because it's like I look like sherbet. I look like raspberry sherbet in this damn shirt. This is the fruitiest shirt I own.
Well, that tracks.
Shut up. I don't know if this was the correct decision, but it's a button up and it was an interview, so I just went with it. I don't know. I do though, because when I look at the shirt, I'm like, this look like raspberry sherbet. This outfit looks like it needs to come with a bowl and a spoon. Thank you. Thank you. I was really hoping cuz you don't want to look threatening. You can't look threatening in fuchsia. I don't care who you is.
Absolutely. Now get ready and stop hogging the mirror.
Right.
What is this game?
Fallout 4?
Oh.
Yeah, it starts off with just, you're like the day of when the nukes dropped.
Lovely.
And your character is a veteran who fought in the most recent war with China. So yeah, fun times, happiness, joy. Don't question it. America.
The video games you're into, dude. I just don't know about you.
You get invested in the story of the video games that I play.
That's true. It's just that right now we're on the brink of World War III. I don't want to look at what could possibly happen.
Oh, not for this level, because we don't have house robots that have buzzsaws that are allowed to take care of our babies.
Anyway.
and slingshots that shoot nuclear warheads.
Well, thank you. I do try to glow, I try. I do. So the reason why I have been behind on getting these podcast episodes out is because, well, I was preparing for the job interview. By the time that I got back from my hometown, because I had a family emergency last month. So then by the time I got back, my boss was like, hey, so all the clients that you had, yeah, so they went with other caregivers and they don't want you back anymore. And I'm like, well, fuck. So then instead of like fully dropping me, my boss was like, hey, so we finally got another client. So I see this person 3 days a week. So that's kind of where I'm at. And I'm like, okay, well, this is the perfect time to transition into another position. One that reflects the work I care about. I mean, granted, it's important to care for the elderly and things like that. But honestly, I am tired of taking care of Jim Crow babies. I am not going to lie. The first 3 weeks of me being a caregiver, I got compared to a fucking syrup bottle. I am not bullshitting you. This man said to me, and I quote, you look like Aunt Jemima, just because I was wearing a hair wrap and it was a yellow one with butterflies on it. Okay. I looked amazing, or at least my hair did. Cause the rest of what I had on, well, to put it plainly, it was my day off. Okay. So I wasn't really prepared, but I decided to work an hour on my day off just for being nice. Because I had to serve food to the homeless people that weekend. But then my boss was like, hey, we don't have a caregiver for this client. Can you show up for an hour and, cook her some breakfast and leave? And I said, oh, okay. Ironically enough, I made this woman some pancakes. And then after I do it, her family member straight up calls me fucking Aunt Jemima. And then says, oh, don't worry, it's not racist. That's my favorite syrup. Motherfucker, what? Like, that conversation happened, and I can't unhear it. So, and that's not even the only experience that I have being a caregiver while black. Another time, different client. I was, once again, wearing a hair wrap before I cut my hair, because I used to have dreadlocks. So before I cut my locks off, I was wearing a hair wrap. I walk in and he straight up compared me to not only Aunt Jemima, but Maya Angelou in the same sentence. And I'm like, do you hear how asinine you sound? I can't be the only one. So no offense, but I'm going to just leave it up to the white caregivers from this moment forward. And that's why I'm trying to get in with the school district, because I can't take this no more. I can't do it no more. Like it's not enough that I come in here for the expressed purpose of cleaning your house and potentially making your meal for a check, by the way. But to just reduce me to a fucking caricature. I am not your mammy. Okay? I'm not mammy. I have a name, and all black people don't act a particular way. So we are multifaceted individuals, just like everybody else. Can we see past the caricatures? Can we see past the racism? Apparently not. So that's why job change. I'm trying to get in with the school district because I'm tired of being a caregiver because I feel powerless. I know black people feel some type of way about Robin DiAngelo when she wrote the book White Fragility, but in the book it did talk about social capital, and I feel like I don't have enough social capital to really say what's on my mind as a caregiver. Whereas if I'm working for the school district and it quite literally is my job to work with black and brown students, I feel like I would have a little bit more leeway. You're literally hiring me to make Southern Oregon less racist. So I feel like at that point, I would have more social capital to say what needs to be said in a professional way, of course, but telling the truth nonetheless. Yeah, exactly. So, y'all remember on my TikTok page when I got that random 3 a.m. video from Mr. Nick. So we went to high school together. We had honors chemistry together, whatever. And the point that I'm trying to get at is that he says, I can't be racist. My best friend is black or something like that. And I don't think that he quite realizes that black people are far and few in between out here. So we find ourselves in social situations more often than not where we can't fully say what's on our mind because we will be depicted as the angry black woman or the violent black man. If we truly say that, yes, you are ignorant as hell, here's how you're ignorant as hell, and all of these things. So it's like, it's being caught between a rock and a hard place. And we experience racial fatigue at the end of the day, where there will be some days where I'm like, I really don't want to interact with white people today. I am calling in sick. Apparently in my own apartment where I am not the minority is the only place where I feel safe at the moment. And I felt that. But I'm hoping that yeah, exactly. Sometimes you really gotta protect your peace, and that's what I'm trying to do. So I feel like working for the school district would, I don't know, I feel like I would be doing a great service because when I was a student coming up through the school district, I didn't feel supported. I didn't feel like, any of these white administrators could possibly understand my struggle. So, and there was no talk of Black Lives Matter. There was no talk of anti-racism. And so now that we're having these conversations on the daily, I feel like, this is the opportunity where black and brown students can finally get the emotional and mental support that they need. I remember I went to McLaughlin Middle School, and one of the things that a white student told me was that I live in a sundown town. That does not inspire joy. Another white student asking me if I wash my hair. Not what shampoo I use, but just if I wash my hair. Like, did you just really go throughout your whole life thinking that black people were dirty? I can only imagine where you learned that from. Just shit like that. So I'm hoping that we're making progress in moving past that. Yeah. That's what I want to do. So now that I got everything out of the way, I still want to do the podcast. It's going to take some time. It's going to take a little bit longer than expected. In fact, I'm thinking that maybe I need to do shorter segments and talking about current events, especially what's going on in the Rogue Valley. I feel like one of the biggest things that goes on is what happens when news stations post on their Facebook pages. Then you can see the sarcastic comments that go on, whether it's about Ma'Khia Bryant or if it's about Black Lives Matter or something like that. It's just the bigots really do show their ass. So, yeah, I feel like there's a lot to discuss just simply there. And the fact that we're still in Women's History Month, and
You think they give a fuck?
that's true. And the fact that we have many occurrences where Black women are still being disrespected, incarcerated even, in Russia, apparently. And it's not international news. And that's the kind of shit that we be talking about, is that Black women are the most fucking disrespected. And even on a colorist, featurist level, even Black men don't protect us. So, yeah, definitely a topic of conversation. That I am excited to have. I mean, excited to only have this conversation so that white people that really are interested in learning what the struggle is and how they can participate in being part of the solution. I feel like that's the reason I'm excited to have the conversation, because honestly, that is a painful conversation to have. Mostly because, for lack of a better way of putting it, I am living proof that Black women are not protected. I am a product of rape. My mom had me when she was 13, and my father was 20. So, yeah. And then part of the family emergency that I had to handle when I went back to Baltimore last month, was the fact that I was told that my father was my grandmother's drug dealer, because back in the day, my grandmother was a crack addict at the time. And I know that this is a very painful conversation, but I always pondered how does a middle schooler, how does someone who is middle school age get involved with a grown-ass man who's 20? And the answer, as painful as it is, comes from someone allowed that access. And it was someone that was supposed to protect their kid, but didn't. So one of the most uncomfortable conversations that I want to have on the podcast is how the crack epidemic really impacted the Black community. Oftentimes, Black people are associated with drug use as if our white counterparts don't use drugs also. But on how systemic racism works is if you associate, Black people with violence and drugs, it is much easier to dehumanize us, is what I'm trying to say. Yes, and I truly want to question everyone involved, because I was thinking to myself for the longest time, it's no reason why my life should be this fucking hard. Why has my mom struggled with being bipolar and going through alcoholism and then dying at a young age? There has to be, where's the disconnect? And that generational trauma shit is real. So having that experience, realizing what my background actually is and how painful it is to know that my grandmother didn't protect my mother. And then the fact that it goes even further than that, how my grandmother wasn't protected by her mother, and so on with the sexual assault and, all of these things. So it's just crazy to me. But yeah. But for right now, I'm trying to have some positive thoughts because I really want to work for this school district. Because I feel like you can't learn necessarily through training what trauma-informed responses can be unless you've experienced trauma yourself. And I feel like I am in that category. Thank you. Thank you so much. I felt like, this is the kind of, because I feel like putting this experience to a positive use is a lot better than trying to dwell on the negative impact it's had in my life. And mind you, I didn't always feel that way. It took a lot of therapy and self-reflection. And speaking of therapy, I need to go back to that because
that makes two of us.
Amen. Because I originally stopped because I needed to finish the healthcare paperwork. I'm on OHP, Oregon Health Plan. So I need to reach back out to my therapist, actually. A lot's going on. Because to be perfectly honest with you, part of the healing journey that I'm trying to stay on is I haven't confronted my grandmother yet. And I'm being real. I've not confronted her about this whole thing. And I know it's going to be trauma and a half once I do. Because I feel like I do deserve some answers. That's all. But anywho's, I hope everyone's day is going to go swimmingly. In the meantime, I know this may be, too much information, but I need to get up out of this bra, okay? It is a cage, and I'm trying to be set free. When I tell you that the big titty life chose me, I don't... Holding the elders accountable is an entire journey. I wish your heart and spirit strength and peace. Thank you so much. Because my family is the type where they like to say some toxic shit like, oh, that's your elder. They can talk to you any way that they want to. And I'm like, I am a grown woman and you will not talk to me that way. I will just leave. And that's how I felt around the time of my mom's funeral. And part of the trauma that I have with my grandmother is simply around the time of my mom's funeral, I didn't feel protected socially because my grandmother's older sister kept constantly throwing shade at me, basically, and making me out to be the bad guy. And I didn't do anything wrong. All I did was show up and pay for part of the damn funeral costs like everybody else. So I don't know why she had it out for me, but it's slowly becoming clear that the only reason why this woman would hate me so much is because, well, my grandmother would tell her certain things about me from her point of view that would warrant that kind of behavior. And then to not be protected, everyone just allows this shit to happen. It's like, oh, okay, cool.
It's like, wait, who's this we that you're talking about there, Grandma?
I feel like, oh, okay, see, this is that kind of behavior that's going to end up with you in a nursing home. You're going to end up alone. Your kids ain't going to talk to you. Like, keep it up. Keep it up. Okay. If that's how we truly feel. So, yes, I would like some questions answered, so to speak. For real, like all that unnecessary trauma, like imagine, being part of the planning process for your own mom's funeral and you're constantly being gaslit and disrespected and then no one's protecting you. On top of that, that would drive anybody going through the grieving process through the most. Right. Yes, I truly do deserve answers, and why no one was upfront with me. Why it is that I had to hear this from my dad's side of the family instead of hearing it from my mom's side of the family. Why is it that this is something that y'all wanted to hush up, while at the same time treat me, for lack of a better term, treat me like the red-headed stepchild? What? I didn't choose to be born. But here I am. And going through this kind of, trauma, it's what makes me hate pro-life people the most. And then when they walk up to me and go, Planned Parenthood is killing black babies. And it's like, shut the fuck up. Just shut up. Because you don't actually care about black kids. Okay? I don't want to hear that. I really don't. Saying, what if, what do you mean, you're pro-abortion? It's not that I'm pro-abortion. It's that I am pro-women's choice. You don't know what that woman is going through. And to be perfectly honest with you, despite the trauma that I went through with my own mother and her alcoholism and all of these things, I realized that at the end of the day, she was also a victim at one point. Hurt people. And it took me a long time to understand that, but here I am. And it had to come from somewhere. This woman, before she died, at one point, she was a 13-year-old. And she was pregnant. And she was forced to give birth. No 13-year-old should have to go through that. That's not something you come back from. Being a mom as a preteen? What?
I actually learned this from a buddy of mine because one of their arguments is oh, you can't abort a baby. You might have just aborted the next Nobel Prize winner. I see it as me being a hero because how do you know that I didn't just abort the next terrorist?
That's true. But yeah, like that's the kind of stuff that I'm gonna discuss in the podcast at some point in time, but not today because like I said, this bra needs to come off, my feet need to go up, and I'ma relax because I had a hell of a day. Yeah, it does feel kind of heavy, but when I tell you that this Aquarius cuts family members off like nobody's business. So I basically don't even talk to... I can count on maybe one hand how many family members I still talk to, and it's not a lot.
Quality over quantity.
Amen to that. So I am so glad that all of y'all were listening. Thank y'all for supporting me. I did not know that I would reach over 1,000 followers in a short span of time simply because I had a whole ass incel in my DMs after so many years.
The guy who thought that you needed him when he was the same kind of guy who would be like, please sit on my face. It's normal sized and fully functional.
Like, how are you almost 30 and you're talking about high school proms? Like, what?
The only time I talk about high school is when I'm like, hey, dude, remember that really stupid shit that we did?
Yeah.
Not flexing. Hey, buddy.
Yeah.
Junior varsity football over here.
Right. I'm still on the snap at the end. How you going to snap your fingers at me? Like, I don't think you like women, sir.
Sorry, Dom. That was too straight of a snap. There's
I don't know.
And then there's the straights trying to pretend to be gay. Hey, now you listen here, fucko.
I didn't get that from him. I feel like he was a very timid, emotionally broken individual, and he's trying to make that my problem, and I don't know
as
why.
my great-grandpappy would say, he was built like a bitch.
Yeah, and then sending me a message at 3:00 in the morning talking about I deserve an apology. Tell your father that you deserve an apology from that man for raising you that way. Okay, but that has nothing to do with me.
I have to assume that he was drunk. And this is for someone who's made a lot of regrettable drunk texts, but I've never been that pathetic as to mention someone from high school, be like, you owe me an apology.
You owe me an apology.
It's like who
What?
the fuck are you?
Okay. I don't owe you shit, by the way, but all right.
Who's we?
Like, who's we in this scenario? What is happening? But yeah, part of what I also want to talk about is that's honestly not the only crazy thing that's happened in my DMs. When I tell you that I have experienced some caucastic shit, hence the reason for the name of this TikTok page and my podcast. So I am going to go ahead and get out of here and maybe start writing some material all the way from my past, and I'll get back to y'all. Bye bye now.